Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are in London, of course, where it is snowy and rather cold, but we're feeling happy. We're not worried too much about that, because we're going to see the Comme Garçons show, which is always exciting. But before that, I want my panelists to please introduce themselves so that you know who is saying what.
Hello, I'm Harriet Verney. I'm a fashion journalist and I run an online magazine called Pygmy, which is like a piggy snouts up to current editorial content, allegedly. And we have columnists like Mr. Moan and Bottle Made in England, which are rubbish but brilliant at the same time.
Sounds great, I must say.
I'm tuning.
Hi, I'm Marie Schuller and I'm a filmmaker and I'm also head of fashion film here at SHOWstudio. So I work with Nick and I edit most of Nick's fashion films and try to run together with him the fashion film department.
Thank you very much.
I'm Richard Gray, Executive Fashion Director of Sunday Times Style magazine, and I don't know much about fashion, but I know lots about food.
I'm Lou Stoppard. I also work here at SHOWstudio with Marie and Nick. I do the editorial side of things, so I do fashion writing and broadcasting. I'm getting a bit jealous of you being in the chair seat.
What do I do about that?
No, I'm kidding.
My name's Colin McDowell. I don't know whether I told you that, but anyhow, it's not so very important. What is important is, before we go to see the what's happening in Paris, we've had some very exciting and interesting and stimulating, I suppose, news today about what's happening to John Galliano. As we know, he's been out of the loop for some time, for various reasons. Everyone knows the stories, but today we are told that he's going to go and work for a certain length of time with Oscar de la Renta in New York. Now this seems a very interesting development for both men, and I can see that there would be quite a lot of ideas that they would have in common. But I want to hear what our panelists feel about this, because it is quite an important piece of fashion news. Lou, would you like to begin?
Well, it's similar to what I was saying to Richard before we started. I think what's so interesting about it is it's such a humble move to go and take I think they're calling it a residency, which is what he's doing with Oscar de la Renta, and I think that's, and you were likening it to an internship, which is actually, it's very true. It's such a kind of a slow way to come back in a way, rather than going in as the head of a new house or sort of setting up something new of his own. He's saying, you know, I'm going to almost start learning again, which I think that's what I'm most struck by, because obviously we don't know that much yet about whether he's going to be designing just for under the Oscar de la Renta name or something, John Galliano for Oscar de la Renta or much like that. But I think that's the biggest thing you can gauge at the moment, is this idea of how he's coming back slowly and coming back in this kind of gentle, humble, apologetic way, which I think is really great.
Well, I think it is all part of the long apology for what he did, which needed to be apologised for, and I suppose there was a necessity for him to go through the mill, as it were, to a certain degree, because what he said was quite vile and very offensive, and a lot of people find it difficult to forgive this. But I think that this is probably the best way to do it, to put him in working with someone in America, but not only that, someone who is very, very loved. What would you like to say about it?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you said. I think it's the fashion world's own take on forgiveness, isn't it? It's saying we'll give you a second chance, but don't think that you've got the same privileges as you did last time. You know, and like we said before the camera was on, it's starting again and starting from basics. I think that's really important as well. You know, yeah.
Where would we like to see it go? I mean, could we imagine John continuing to work in New York, not necessarily, or maybe with Oscar, or maybe he'd get his own label? Do we think that his extraordinary creativity would actually work and be fed by what happens in New York?
Well, I think the nice thing that he is doing his comeback in such a humble way is that there are not such high expectations on him. It's like nobody really knows what's going to happen, and he's coming back in such a soft manner that he can basically do whatever he wants. There's not, I mean, obviously the limelight is always going to be on him now, you know, after he's been away for so long and the way he went out. But it's, you know, starting that way and coming back that way really gives him a chance to do his thing. And for me personally, I don't have any expectations, because he has to just, it's his chance really to start completely afresh you know, his image has been totally turned around and destroyed in that sense. So now it's his chance to really, you know, start from scratch and build up a new image and maybe continue where he left off, or maybe do something completely different. I mean, he has the creativity, so.
And New York is almost, it's really interesting what you say, because New York almost is the city of no expectations in that sense, because it is in some way seen as being this very commercial city. It's not got that same kind of creative buzz that London has. So it's, in a way, it's so perfect for someone like John Galliano to come back, because whatever he does is going to be different and special in some way. And being away from the drama of somewhere like London or Paris, where he obviously was, I think that's really exciting. I think
New York needs that as well. They need someone like Galliano to shake it up a bit. There's some,
Absolutely.
you know, my generation of people in New York are dressing like their mothers in a way. And that's all they want, the same bag as their mother, the same prom dress, and the same designer. And you need someone like John to go, actually, no, you can be yourself, really.
There aren't many people
trends.
who understand occasion wear like John Galliano does, and that's the big money-making market in New York for Oscar de la Renta. For me, it's the perfect segue. Because if Oscar was to retire, and you know he's getting on, bless him, and John came in, then you would imagine that somebody with that skill set and that knowledge of how to dress for an occasion wear and day wear, his tailoring is immaculate, which sells in the States, then to me it makes perfect sense. But let's see, we don't know, he's been in Fashion Perda, we don't know where he is at the moment.
No, we don't know what he's learned and what he's discarded and what his plans are. I mean, I think that he's, in many ways, John, I wrote a book with him years ago, and I was very impressed with how very focused he was and really quite determined, you know, and we don't know how many people have tried to do this already, but he hasn't felt it was right for him.
But John's been knocked back before, and he's come back. He lost his backing.
Oh God, yes. Before he went to Paris, it was, you know, every other week it seemed he was going.
He lived over a petrol station in London, and Anna used to visit him, and this was way back in the 80s, and Shelley, during when Shelley's were the backs, and they withdrew the money, and then there was no show, and then what was the fantastic show he did in Paris, the what was her name? Schlumberger.
In this beautiful old house which hadn't been lived in for some time. It was covered in dust. I think it was actually marvellous. I think that was the one where we had a rusty old key as our invitation,
the invite,
which I still have somewhere, you know. No, well, certainly when he was in London, he once said to me, with humour, he's got a great sense of humour, John, he said, you know what, it became so routine, turning the corner and seeing all of my stuff being thrown out into the skip yet again because we've gone bankrupt, you know. And he never, ever lost his determination. Someone once said to me, why don't you tell him to go and work for Marks and Spencer so he could make some money and not have any money? And I said, that is ridiculous. He just wouldn't know what to do, you know. And I think that if, as we all, I think, believe that this has been engineered by Anna Wintour, who has been a true fairy godmother to him, then she's done it because Oscar does have this richness and lovely, marvellous approach to evening, and it could be absolutely terrific, you know. But I don't think it's the end of the line, unless Oscar is thinking of retiring, which would be a shame because he's so much, you know, he's one of the old guard, and he's so much old New York, you know. And now we're all going to say, we're happy about this, it's a very good thing, and it's not just because we're Brits, it's because he's a world genius. Is that too much? Can I say that on your behalf?
I think what he did was unforgivable in certain, you know.
We're not saying.
However, I think that talent like that deserves validation with creation and a collection.
Yes.
But don't you think that's what's great about him going somewhere like Oscar de la Renta, where it almost feels very structured and very safe in a sense, because there's something so pragmatic about Oscar de la Renta. And I know it's an amazing, he as a designer is amazing, as you said, part of this old guard, but there is this warmth and this ease and this happiness to the label, you know, it's not this.
Yes,
and I think in a way John Galliano can go there and produce a collection, and it will just be about the work, and it's not going to be about that charade, which I think is what's so nice about it, because it is removing that need for him even to comment about his personal life anymore.
No, quite. Because it's been superseded. Suddenly there's another thing to talk about with John, you know, and that's great. And as I say, I'm sure it's Anna Wintour, and I think we should all say, well, thank you very much.
Indeed, as always.
And thank you, Oscar. Let's look at it this way. It's quite a thing for a very famous designer with a huge clientele of adoring women to take someone who had been besmirched by what he said, you know? So it really is, it's a feel-good story, this.
Yeah, of course,
I really
sure.
think so. Well, let's start feeling good with Comme, Garçons.
From one genius to another.
From one genius to another, exactly. There's no doubt about this lady. She is absolutely a genius, in my opinion. Okay, so let's just have a look at 2 or 3 and get our eye in before we start talking. And then I'm going to stop talking. I just want you people to talk.
It's a bit Donnie Darko, that first look, isn't it? With the wrap.
A bit Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Okay. See, we're laughing already. This is
Look at this.
key to Comme is the sense of humour.
Yeah, it's comical, isn't it? Almost.
Yes, it's this total confidence, isn't it?
Those ears were done already, weren't they? With the Philip Tracy did the Mickey Mouse ears last season, and the Louis Vuitton.
Yes, there's a certain playfulness.
I love it. Yeah.
There's a great sort of feeling of playfulness.
It's that immaturity of doing that above your head.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like an Instagram pose, isn't it? But she's been doing cartoon. She's been doing Avatar before Avatar. You know, she loves this idea of kind of the manga sensibility of things being slightly bonkers and childish and childlike, kind of married with just an incredible craft.
But what's so funny is, you know, when she did the flat collection, the women's wear collection, where everyone said it's about images being two-dimensional, and then afterwards she was like, oh no, it's not about that at all, which is what I think is so funny about her, because you can see this trend where you're like, okay, it is about online imagery, it's about Tumblr culture, it's about GIFs, it's about all that's modern and all that's modern about how fashion's presented, and then she always kind of moves away from that.
She's contradictory.
But there's great, keeps you guessing.
Indeed. She's like Mrs. Prada in that way, that she might do something. Mrs. Prada, for example, her menswear collection for last summer was based on golf. Mrs. Prada hates golf. The famous collection where she did lace, and it was all made, I think it was in Switzerland, I can't remember exactly. She hates lace. There is that kind of very similar mind.
Yeah. Well, and what is it? It's a mind really that's a bit like Zaha Hadid in architecture. They just leap over the conventions and they say, I'm going to do it this way because I want to do it. And luckily, she can afford to do it. It doesn't matter really very much if she doesn't sell anything from this collection. She's still not going to go bankrupt. You know, because she has so many lines in Japan which make the money. But
I think that's really interesting about her, because I always wonder how she's managed to avoid having this tag of being a very commercial designer, because obviously there's things like Comme des Garçons Play, which sells really, really well. But
and Worn by One Direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
You've been reading Charlie Porter.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've always got it. They've all got it on now. I don't know who's styling them,
but she's never tarred with that like commerciality brush ever. You know, you'd never look at it and say that it's kind of, she's doing this one bonkers collection to get her press, and then also doing a lot of stuff to sell really well. It always seems more creative than that.
But the cut of her clothes has always just been completely spot on, and no one can ever match that. So no matter how commercial she goes, people will go to her for that cut.
Yes. I think she's she's probably one of 4 true geniuses working in fashion. Oh, look at that.
I love that jacket.
What is it? Do you think it's embroidered, or is it a print, or what? My eyes aren't good enough to tell.
Yeah, mine.
What do you think?
I don't know, I think it looks like
Devoré.
Is it? It looks like Devoré, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you think it is?
Oh, it's so beautiful.
She's fond of this longer coat shape. Though. You know, she's okay. Here we go. She's a bit of a pervert. Quote me on that. As in, she perverts classic menswear codes. So that's a classic menswear SB3 coat. You know, there's nothing revolutionary about that. But what the hell? I mean, that belongs in a circus.
But isn't it what it's all about, really? In a sense, she's about undermining set ideas of what it should be from it. And there are far too many set ideas about how men should dress. And I just think that's great.
But do you think it's as considered as that? Do you think she is trying to deliberately undermine, or do you think she's more just being really free?
I think she takes the pompous out of men's tailoring. You know, that there's that, you have to wear this with this, and this tie has to be like this, and you have to have this in this pocket. And she goes, no, I don't really care.
She doesn't want to repeat. She's on record saying that she doesn't want to repeat, and she doesn't reference magazines like a lot of modern designers do. You know, they'll take tears and they'll create mood boards. I don't really think it's about that.
Well, no,
when I look at that, it almost seems like she's creating characters, and I see it from like a filmic perspective. So if I think, okay, I want to film this look. If I just take the jacket or just the trousers, it might not work, or it might actually just look like a quite ordinary item of clothing, but the whole look together, and not even that, if you take all the looks together even more, the whole group of them, it creates this amazing, overwhelming, visual, stunning, mismatching yet matching group of people that is quite, from a film perspective, this would be ideal, really exciting to.
It's like Winnie the Pooh, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a manga film, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that with the hoodie under the coat, because you see that on the tube, and you see that all around the streets, young men when they're cold and they wear quite a smart shaped winter coat with a hoodie underneath, but that's such a new version of that.
Version on Tyrolean.
It really is so confident, it's so take that, this is it, and that's all there is to it, I think she's fabulous. I've always admired her. In fact, there have been very few collections which didn't hit we've got a sort of sports coat on top of her.
Like a bohemian posh kid, isn't it? They went to Beadle's. Yeah, it's
interesting, these warm, rusty sort of colours she's using.
Now we're verging on Kurt Cobain here. There's something grunge 90s here as well.
It's the
very
oversized.
Yeah. Like Raph and his obsession with youth tribes, you'll sense that here too.
Yeah.
But you will always notice codes. Chanel has the gardenia, the pearls, the boucle wool. Comme has tartan, polka dot, and boucle wool. So you and look at the dressing around the edge. That's Comme. I mean, that's Chanel. Forgive me. That she always and also you'll see a lot of Westwood references there. And she's gone on record saying that Vivienne is a huge influence on her, especially the early 80s stuff. How could it not be?
Well, I think Vivienne has in a way been a huge influence on virtually every
just about everybody.
Every really top designer.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit sort of little Lord Fauntleroy.
Absolutely.
There's that lovely sort of, what would you say, cherry red, really.
I think there's something really nice about it though, because it's nodding to all those kind of new shapes that we're getting a lot of the really young designers in London doing, that kind of really baggy, oversized sportswear thing. But it's also, there are these elements of conservative menswear in it, and that I love that because it's how you see men dressing on the street. They want to buy these new trends, so they're buying like a really nice sweater or an oversized piece, but they're wearing it with stuff they already have in their wardrobe. So it's this weird mix where they're trying to kind of move forward but also wear stuff they already own. And you see that here.
Yeah, it seems to be something that she does anyways, is almost quite conservative cuts, and they're like inspired almost by Edwardian, like other influences, but then in the most awkward shapes and sizes either.
Edwardian schoolboy.
Exactly.
Still trying to fit into his
clothes,
almost
perfect in one sense, but then like so wrong in another sense.
Yeah, but so in a sense we're saying that we're seeing the new dandy. This is a new sort of dandyism.
But not taking himself so seriously.
Right, exactly.
I mean, there's definitely an element of like almost comical like approach to it. But then when I see something like that, I think it looks amazing, especially in the context if you have all of them. But how well would it actually work on the street? Do you think if somebody like quite ordinary, somebody like who thinks Comme des Garçons is their hero and they buy this and they walk through, Clerkenwell, would it have the same impact?
But I think it's how men dress, isn't it? I think I know you've got the colours and the headpieces that adds a certain sort of pizzazz to it, but that is how men dress. It's marrying a jacket with a sweater, and all the notions of tailoring and what goes with what, as you said earlier, have gone.
The truth of the matter is that nobody under the age of 40 wears Comme des Garçons mainline generally. A, because it's so incredibly expensive, and B, because they're children of the 80s and they remember Comme when Comme really just exploded on the scene, and it really is the go-to buy for architects, artists.
Always in black.
Thinkers.
Always in
thinkers.
Black. What I love is the richness of the colour and the delicacy as well. That's a marvellous.
Quite Scott Crowler. Do you remember when he was doing those beautiful jackets in the 80s?
Yeah, Scott Crowler.
Yeah,
yes.
It's that shot by Westminster Cathedral, isn't it, where you get all the Pope's
They're quite upholstery
prints
colours
and
as
stuff.
well.
It's
They're
so beautiful.
quite,
You're right. You're
yeah.
absolutely right.
Georgian, how? You go into a Georgian house, the yellow, the buttercup yellow, the green, the red, the velvet.
Red,
What do we think that coat's made of? I'd like to think it was beautiful,
Silk.
butter soft suede. That's
Do
what
you
I
think so?
It can be that for
I think
you.
it's silk.
Yeah.
It's silk.
Silk, yeah.
I mean, in a way, she takes an enormous risk, doesn't she? Because if her hand was less secure, that could look dreadful.
Yeah.
As it is.
It's a risky colour, yellow.
As it is, it has, indeed, it has total
But it is
conviction.
dreadful.
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
It
It isn't
No, it
dreadful.
The thing is, it's dreadful, but to the attuned eye and the Comme fan, they see something else, and it's self-congratulatory. So I see this because I know Comme, and I'm congratulating myself because I understand it, and that's what appeals. In a recent interview, she said, when Comme des Garçons is about a sense of power, and you get power from these clothes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would
have
totally
to say
agree
that
with
every
that.
designer says I'm trying to empower my customer.
Who does though, really?
No.
But you see that with Prada as well, which is what's interesting. You know, you say with this idea of you get it and you understand it, and of course we look at it more when it's Comme. And in the way, if any designer had done what Mrs. Prada did and sent out her first look, which was essentially like a sweater over a shirt with some trousers, it looked like someone out of One Direction. I know we keep getting stuck on One Direction.
Yeah, we're
But
obsessed.
if any other designer did that, you know, people would be like, that could be someone walking out of Top Man. But you look a little closer and you think of it a little more, and then you get it, and that's where the validation with loving a brand like Prada or Comme des Garçons comes from.
This reminds me of young Japanese girls' school uniform.
Yeah.
The naval stripes, absolutely. But also, it reminds me of Tazio from Death in Venice. Something he may have worn, yeah.
Yes, but all it needs is a little hat.
Yes.
Let's try another.
But what you said
Maybe
earlier
go
about
down.
people under 40 not being able to wear Comme des Garçons, it's the same thing. My generation, the reason they know about Comme des Garçons is only because the wallet, if their parents have bought them a wallet, or Comme de Fuck Down. And so now they're starting to go, wait, why is Comme de Fuck Down funny?
Do you know that, Colin? Do you
Comme
know
de
about
Fuck
that?
Down, and it's really funny, and they love it, and now they're starting to get attuned. So now all my male friends who's from 2021 are starting to go, wait a minute, that is actually beautiful, and they're wearing the baggy trousers that come down here, and they're not really being taken the piss out of, and boys can be horrible to each other. But yeah, they're loving the cut, but it's only just now they've started to...
The sensibilities.
Yeah,
are
the
coming through.
sensibility of it's coming out a bit.
Yeah. Thinking of Little Lord Fauntleroy, who we've mentioned several times, there is this sort of quality in the hair and the face and the length of the trousers, which are a bit like little boys, you know, when they go to school and they get their trousers a bit longer, so that they don't grow out of them too
Don't graze their
quickly.
knees.
You
Yeah.
know.
So it's really
She always plays with proportions.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a silly thing to say about menswear. I think that's absolutely charming. I think it's a really charming look.
It's
Yeah.
whimsical, I think.
Whimsical
and
as
men are
well.
allowed to be whimsical now.
I'm not sure the English male knows that,
Do you think?
to be honest, but still. Let's have another.
There's a sense, not that I ever want to weave Comme into any trend piece, but there's a sense coming through in menswear for spring and especially in autumn winter of what, when I wrote a piece for 10 magazine called The Femme. So like the 70s with Bowie, who mixed women's wear and menswear, more women's wear, these thin creatures with makeup and hair. There's a sense of that coming through with designers like Comme and J.W. Anderson, who are sprinkling hundreds and thousands, feminine hundreds and thousands onto basic menswear shapes.
Yeah, the long shirt.
It's an
which is
interesting
coming up
movement.
Again and again and again.
And perhaps that, you know, not getting too clever because I'll get a headache, but perhaps that's something to do with the empowerment of women and how men, the masculine form and masculine power, needs feminine influence to reinvent itself.
Yeah.
It's the freedom that women have now. I think men are getting a bit jealous of that and going, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We're
Clothing
pushing
is the
bar
best
up a bit.
barometer of what's happening socially.
I'm a different generation, but I'm not seeing this.
I do.
Yeah, I see.
No.
I'm not seeing
But
this.
it's strange because you think it's not even remotely revolutionary to on a women's wear catwalk see clothing which at one point was menswear. And it did, like when everyone was watching the J.W. Anderson show, you know, people were like, oh my gosh, he's just trying to shock. And then you think, well, yeah, it is shocking to see a man in little culottes and frills, but there has to come a point eventually where it catches up, where it can't just be women wearing menswear. Men will eventually start wearing women's wear.
It'll come round and it goes round and round. It's a carousel.
We've spent an awful lot of time in the last few days talking about J.W. Anderson, but I think that I don't think it was clever enough.
No, I didn't like it.
You know, I just didn't think it was clever.
There was no masculinity, it wasn't sexy.
And it didn't say anything about men at all.
No, it was just trying to make a statement, and he did. And
It
I
was.
just didn't. I
It
didn't
was to get us all talking, as we have all been talking since, you know, but this is a completely different approach.
But I was
to be compared, in my opinion.
I was talking yesterday about the fact that why are women allowed to wear men's clothing for such a long time, and it's not shocking anymore, and it's accepted by society as well as by the catwalk, and man can't do the same without, you know, being ridiculed in society, and, you know, on the catwalk it's so shocking. But what I think it's great about Comme, Garçons is that they've been mixing, you know, the femininity and masculinity for so long, and it's not shocking, and it doesn't feel unfitting. It feels almost natural in their case. I think these guys, they even though they have long, little girlish hair, they still look manly and they still look cool, you know, and they don't look they would walk.
They're not taking the whole look. They're just
they don't look like. She's done, was it 2 seasons ago, whenever, I've just looked over it earlier, where she had all the guys with this very punkish New York Dolls hair.
Yes.
And they were wearing the most sweet little prints, and they look, and those as well, they didn't look, they didn't look ridiculous at all. It looked natural almost.
Well, to answer the question you started with, I would have thought that the problem was with men. It's men who stop men wearing pretty colours and skirts and whatever, you know. It's men. I'm looking at this, and the last couple of things, they've got an almost Victorian feel to them. There's quite a historical sort of feeling.
She's been raiding
it's
that for
hair,
a while.
It's the lengths and everything. Let's see what she goes on to do.
There's colour towards the end, if I remember. What's this?
What's that?
It's like a big
old
morning gown.
What's that made of, do you think?
It looks like a dressing gown.
It's got something almost attached to it, doesn't it?
It looks like it's got it doesn't look like it's quilted though. It looks
bubbles.
like that's got bubbles.
It does have definitely something on it, on like an under.
But that is so dandyish, and we've seen a few of those dressing gown shapes across.
Smoking jacket.
Okay. Oh, I hate these because I can't see any detail. You know?
Black. A lot to say about the colour black and Comme.
Very similar look in black.
Isn't there, Colin? In 82, when she first showed, and remember black, there is a question mark over black about it being the most powerful colour, because there's an argument that red is more powerful than black and fluoro more powerful than red. But black, it sells, doesn't look good on magazines, it doesn't sell online. Because there's
I can imagine that.
Just a kind of a sub thing to this.
Well, it's a great flatterer, isn't it? It makes you look slimmer and tall.
And it doesn't age, and you know the fabric. But I understand that the power of the online buyers, I shan't mention their names, is so great now that they're going to designers and saying, I want that dress but not in black. So you're seeing a lot of techno prints especially on the London catwalks, and that pressure is coming from online designers, because black does not, it's flat.
Yes.
Do you think we'll see that then in like 10, 20 years, however many, what do you think will become the new blacks in the sense because of online? Do you think we'll keep that? Do you think that print thing's hanging around because of that?
Well, I don't think that there'll be one colour. I mean, she did an amazing thing for black, because she made this very pretentious and foolish remark. I work with X number, say it was 9. I work with 9 shades of black. Well, you know, we have a magazine in England called Private Eye, and it has a little column called Suits Corner, where people should have thought before they spoke, and that is
we'll be in it.
Very Suits Corner. Oh,
Yeah.
I've been in it several times. It's very Suits Corner, but yet I remember it from 30 years ago.
But there are
know?
very shades. Black's not black. There are, ask any dyer.
Yes, well we know that. Red's not red, blue's not blue.
No,
very
indeed.
Right, so we go to white.
I love that, like pyjamas.
Is that white or is that a pale pink?
Pale
That
pink.
is my
It looks like a pale
Right.
pink over white.
I think it's a babe, like a really, really pale pink over white.
Okay. Oh, this was
Is
one
this-
that we
is-
saw earlier.
Yeah, I don't know if we're leaping back.
Is this the beginning again?
Yeah, we're getting the beginning again, I think.
I'm interested, so we've had them all at this stage. I'm interested in the green that she's showing. clothes against?
You know, it is very interesting. I remember when
Very
Christopher
unusual.
Kane showed the purple carpet and everybody walked down on a purple carpet. Was that last autumn, winter?
No, it was.
It was.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it was. It was the black
last-
leather
yeah.
with all the tubing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the first thing everybody's like, purple, and then purple, that's the 70s. That means the 70s are back. And then we saw the purple carpet, lavender, purple at
Yeah, it's more
Prada
lavender than
in Milan.
purple.
And everybody's like, purple, purple, purple. And then it's the 70s. And everybody decided it was all about 70s.
Do you think we all look too deeply into it and want to make a story? Do you think she would say,
Yeah, that's
oh,
what
Well, we've got to
I've
justify
I've
our
done
jobs,
that
Colin.
because I've done that because I like it, you know, and I just thought green was a good colour.
Yeah,
I think maybe there's
Yeah,
not a
Green's
deep
like going through a
narrative
forest,
in
isn't it? And all those boys are like the little lost boys
little-
going
yeah.
through
All
a
right,
forest,
coming out of
like
the
a
forest.
Japanese garden or something. I
Maybe
don't
it's
know.
even
think
less
so.
than that.
I
Maybe
like
it's just
it.
a
I'd like
feel
to
that
think
she
that.
translated.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
lovely.
And there's Winnie the Pooh and the 100-Acre Wood.
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
it's all that.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of
Do you think she will know
Emerging.
about Winnie the Pooh?
I think everyone knows.
everyone
about
knows when it. Or Pom Poko, you know, all those little Japanese animates.
yes,
Sorry,
more
like that.
likely, yes.
There's lots of English, specifically English references in her work because she's married to an Englishman, Adrian
She is,
Joffe,
yes.
and you will see English icons like the Rolling Stones. She did a collection based on that. Like, and she does the collaboration with Fred Perry. There
Oh,
are
sure.
English brands that they work really well with, and I think that comes through Adrian actually. her husband.
That haircut was quite Jagger though, you know, early Jagger with the big lips,
Yes,
the haircut with
yes.
the little curls. Did you see that?
Right, well, I think we've probably seen what we're going
To see so
to
far.
see, which is
Look at them all together, they look like an army,
Yeah.
I love it.
but we've certainly seen enough, I think, to like it.
I don't think you can't. I think that you can dislike Comme though. But I think that's what's clever about it.
Well,
is 'cause
a lot
people-
of people daren't.
Yeah, they don't exactly. They're too
She's
scared to.
so highly regarded within the industry that a lot of fashion critics included, who actually don't understand those clothes and don't like those clothes, refuse to say that they don't like them because they're frightened.
They're frightened, yeah.
Because
It's
there's
ignorance,
so
isn't
many,
it?
yes.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of, there is an emperor's new clothes
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it. Don't you know? There is. Let's be honest.
Well, with all fashion.
With all
yes.
fashion, especially this, because she's one of the 3, 4, 5 who make the world turn around in fashion, you daren't say anything.
But isn't that the brilliance of it? Because that's what I think is so clever about Prada as well. Is that sense where, you know, if she put out like just a white t-shirt and jeans as all her look,
Yeah,
still
but
no one would
It's
say
still
this is
almost,
boring.
that
you'd
is
be
her
too scared.
confidence, but it's
Yeah.
almost like a
Yes.
code. People that don't understand that much about fashion history and the ins and outs of fashion, they think almost it's like a code. If you say I don't like Comme des Garçons, that means I don't understand it, and
Yeah,
therefore they don't
exactly.
even say it.
Yeah.
They say, oh no, this was great, even though they have no
Yes.
idea what they just saw.
But I'm sure, I think we would all agree with this, that with those two ladies, they don't give a damn what we think.
Do you think
No.
so?
I don't think they give a damn.
I don't know if that's
Just
what
like
I'm
clothes
never,
in
saying.
itself
I've
and the way you
never
have to pull
talked to
them off
Reiko
or something.
Kubo, but I've talked enough to Mucha, so she just doesn't.
But she
has
does
a
read
big-
everything. She
she
reads all
reads
the
it.
press,
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Prada. She does. But
What I don't know is, you know, Mucha Prada has a lot of help from young, particularly young English stylists. I don't know what happens there. Does anyone know?
I
if
don't know if
people
anybody
work-
styles
I
that.
don't know.
I don't
No?
know
Or
if
if they
anybody
do,
does
it's
Do you think
style
it's
it.
all her?
I don't know. I don't know. Have we
If
exhausted
it is
the
her,
Comme?
well, we've got no more pictures, but we can continue to talk, or we can go off and have a drink and
We've got our drink.
We can have a pint.
have a pint. We are in London.
Shall I have some champagne?
Yeah.
Shall I have some champagne,
Glass of
everybody at home?
champagne. Well, you get
Some
a glass of champagne. You get a glass of champagne because you've worked hard. But well,
I'm
we've
interested.
seen some of the Reiko Kubo magic. Sadly, we're not going to see any more, I think. But we've enjoyed it. We hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you will come back tomorrow to our continued coverage.
We've got another
of-
one today.
Givenchy, you've got
Givenchy.
Colin.
which Lou is
I know.
chairing because I'm
Back
not
in the
going to be
hot
here. So that'll be fun. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Givenchy. And then I'm back on duty tomorrow. I think
Yeah.
that's it. Yes. And we hope you're enjoying it. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Thank you.
Great.